Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy, very happy to have some returning guests to our set today. Betty Beekman's the Executive Director of the National Theater of the Deaf, and also Chris Joseph, one of the actors. Welcome you both to the show today. Thanks for being here. Betty, for a little context for those who are unfamiliar with the National Theater of the Deaf, a little background on it.
Well, National Theater of the Deaf is a touring theater company. That's exactly what we do. We tour all over the country. We've been to all 50 states. We've been to 32 countries. If you add the USA, that's 33. And we've done a workshop on a cruise ship in the waters of Antarctica. So now we can say that we've touched all 7 continents.
Wow.
So we're bragging on that.
And I know you're getting ready to go to Japan.
Yeah, November, we're going to be flying out and we're going to be performing at a conference for deaf high school students and the public. They're going to be performing there. And you want to talk about the performance, what we'll be doing there? Chris says we have 4 different kinds of programs that we're doing currently in our season. We're doing See Our Signs, which is the name of one program, Signs and Signs. A Show of Hands, which is another program. We have a curtain with slots and they stick their hands out through it and they do some stories, and then we do the Diaries of Adam and Eve. And then we do a Show of Hands version 2 or version B, which is instead of telling folk tales and so forth in that part of the program, we fill that in with another Mark Twain story called The McWilliamses. And it's a family that has a lot of anxious moments about a child who actually has a little stick of pine in his throat from chewing a stick. So it's a lot of fun for what we're doing.
How long have you been an actor for now?
I've been actor since I was young. I grew up acting. I've been involved in some plays through school. High school, I was involved more, and then after I graduated, I went to community college in California, Oleon College. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it. I performed for them 2 times, and I had a lot of fun, and was well received, and so I applied for NTD, was accepted, and I've been with NTD. Now this is my 2nd year with NTD.
What's different about studying for roles and the acting in general, remembering lines? How do you do it? Is there any different than any other actor would?
Well, for me, studying for a role and acting in general, studying for a role, you look at the script, you study the character. Other actors may be just performing, but we also study the role and we really try to understand the characters, understand why they're doing that, why they're saying that line, and they have different meanings in each line. For our company, we work by translating it also into American Sign Language and trying to make sure that we have the beauty and essence of both languages that occur at the same time. For an NTD, the National Theater of Deaf performance, we sign and speak everything on stage. So it's not like there's an interpreter off to the side. We have some hearing actors in the company and they are involved in all the action, so it all happens seamlessly and on stage. So we like to say that you see and hear every word. So it's an ensemble company. Chris studying lines like that. I am amazed at how quickly he learns his lines. I am truly amazed. Other people are like still on script and working, and he's like, okay, I've got it, and he's just fast worker.
So because of that, because you're so good at that, remembering and learning lines, you could probably have the more intricate roles or maybe the more leading roles just because of your ability, right?
If Betty says so.
Betty, how about a little bit of the history of the NTD, just kind of going back a ways and how it's evolved into what it is today?
Let's see, we started in 1967, so let me put in, 46 years of our history in a few sentences.
You can take more than a few sentences if you want.
We started at the O'Neill Theater Center. It started, David Hayes, who was our founding artistic director, was a lighting designer for a show called The Miracle Worker about Helen Keller. So there was some signing in that, and I think and Anne Bancroft was in the show. She played Annie Sullivan. And from that, they got the idea, worked with some people. To make a long story shorter, they saw a performance, and then David finally got funding after 10 years of looking for funding to start the company. And we started at the O'Neill Theater Center. We did a film to start with to show what we were going to be doing, and it was called NBC Experiment in Television. And we had Annette Fabre perform with us, and that gave us some star quality that helped lead us. And then the first tour was in 1967. So since then, we've been touring. We're strictly a touring theater company. Sometimes I get emails saying, well, how can I come see your show? I said, well, bring us to where you are.
Right.
You know, we'll perform for you, because we don't have a theater. We're like, as a friend of mine once said, you're like those birds that live in other birds' nests.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, we're always looking for somebody else's nest. And we've been all over the world.
But you know, you're so well renowned and appreciated that you say you may not have a home per se, but if people like you enough, and they do, you're welcome back to places an awful lot, and you can kind of call places your home, right?
Well, we moved back to work. We're at the Monte Cristo Cottage, is where our office is, and we do our rehearsals at the O'Neill Theater Center. So for us, that feels like home.
Yeah.
So, but for performing, we can perform anywhere. And a former tour director said we can perform anywhere but on water. But then we proved him wrong when we did the workshop on the cruise ship. So
Nice.
we performed on water. So
That's sort of a loophole there, but you got through it. You know, you were talking about that star power. That helped early on, didn't it, to add credibility to what you were doing, and that sort of was a domino effect.
Oh yeah, that helps a lot. And we've created a lot of stars through our years in the company. Many people are familiar with Linda Bove from Sesame Street. She started with our company. Bernard Bragg, who was the first professional deaf actor, we think, in America. John Basinger, who is on our board, he was one of the first actors. We just did a benefit performance for him, for his, he was president of the Buttonwood Tree in Middletown. And Phyllis Fralick, who got the Tony Award, Marlee Maitland, who worked with us as well. You.
Come on, give him some credit.
We've gotten a Tony Award.
Nice.
And people who've worked with it have gotten Emmys, and you know, we've been very, very fortunate.
Very fortunate, but also in an amazing way given back to the community. It's because of the NTD that things like closed captioning exist today. Talk about that a little bit.
You want to talk about that? Okay, give you a chance. Closed captioning, there wasn't any closed captioning up until like around the 1990s. And finally, it was the ADA law was passed, and it was all accessible for all TV. They required to have captioning for deaf people. Not only deaf people, but it also helped other people who were learning to read or couldn't disabled people who needed to be able to read and couldn't speak. But so far, the captioning has been going on. It's good because the closed captioning not only it has. There used to be like a TTY, which was a 300-pound telephone for the deaf, and years of it's become a very small TTY. Now we don't use TTYs anymore because now we have our phones and our technology, video phones as well.
You know,
so different kinds of sponsoring organizations involved for the deaf community. It's been really nice now.
Maybe this was early on, but a lot of times the CCC would have misspellings on it because I think people were, you know, typing too quickly or trying to keep up. I don't know.
We have a lot of jokes in the deaf community about the closed captioning errors. So yeah, it's pretty funny.
Because of your performances and the NTD in general, perceptions of the deaf from way back when to now, have they changed, and for the positive as far as perception?
Honestly, for me, I wasn't born long ago, but from what I can see, I think that there was a lot of changes for a lot of people. And now today, I see people, they really are touched by our performances. And every year, it's different for everyone, no matter what. If that year it didn't choice, but then it influenced something new that would come up, and we would come up with new ideas and so forth. And so now, as it grows, people think that they really touch because they do touch everyone.
How old are you, Chris?
22.
Oh, so young, like you said, you know. Do you want to continue acting? Do you want to continue performing? Yeah.
To add a little more to his question, because I have a longer perspective on it.
A little bit longer?
A little bit longer. Yeah, there is a huge difference. I remember I'm a CODA. Means that my mom and dad are deaf. I was raised in a deaf community, and I started interpreting phone calls when I was 4, as soon as I was able to. So I was, and people would hang up on me and say, put your mother on the phone. What are you doing playing with the phone? And it used to really hurt me. We go out. There was a little boy on the street that said, I don't know if I told this story before or not. He said he couldn't play with me anymore because his parents were afraid they was going to catch deafness from me.
Wow. But again,
there's a big change now.
That goes to what we were talking about the perception of the deaf has changed. It's more accepted. You're not treated differently anymore.
Yeah, growing up, at first people would see signing, they would move away. They thought there was something wrong. There was, was something weird. Now people come in, they go, oh, you know sign language. Or sometimes they interrupt your personal conversation, say, oh, they go, hi, which is great. It is very different now.
Tell me about signing in general. Is it something that more people have decided to pick up and learn? It's certainly more accepted in society now. How difficult is it to learn?
What do you think? For me, it might be difficult because it might be different. I'm trying to learn any different language from any country, French or Spanish or something. It's like ASL, learning a different language, but it's more visual. Perhaps the concepts are more easier to understand. People learn sign, they tend to have awkwardness, and then later on they understand the concept and they understand everything. So it's a little difficult in the beginning, but especially if they work, talking with people or meet with deaf people, their comprehension skills, their skills will really increase for sure.
I would imagine for somebody who's not deaf or who's just been speaking for a long time, in order to learn sign, you almost have to unlearn some things to be proficient at it.
Well, I don't know. I would disagree.
No, that's okay.
Signing is a different language than English. It's not English, and it's based on visual concepts. So what you see is what you talk about first, and then the descriptives tend to come after. People do pick it up. People who tend to be like dancers pick it up really quick.
In the arts, right?
In the arts, or or have a proficiency in language, they pick it up. The order isn't the same as English, so sometimes that throws people. They're surprised that, oh, American Sign Language is different than British Sign Language. And we say, yes, it's a different language, or French Sign Language, so forth. So it's different languages, different contexts. People who are very motivated pick it up quickly. People who are not as motivated don't pick it up as quickly, but they have a hard time. But I think the visual component of sign language is fun. To be able to see and physicalize a concept, it's fascinating to people. And sign language shows a lot of expression, physical expression, like, maybe hard to explain something, but here, let me show it to you. And they say, oh, I understand the picture of the language. So sign language is a beautiful art in itself. And it really helps theater, too, because theater is all about expression and physicality, and so that works well.
How do you show emotion using sign?
Well, like, for example, finish, the word finish. Like, knock it off. You're mad. It's like, oh, yeah, all right, come on, knock it off. All right, oh, yeah, oh, that's funny, stop it. So there's different emotions that you add to one sign. It's really interesting, yeah. We add a depth and a beauty in sign language to the word, so it's like not only hearing the word, for hearing people, they get to see the word. And, yeah, it's our tone, so, yeah.
We're going to take a break and come back, but when we do come back, there'll be sort of some, like a performances, a poetry reading.
We're going to do a couple excerpts
Okay.
from the shows that we're doing.
Before we break, I want you to give out the website, Betty, for people to go and learn more about the NTD.
Sure, www.ntd.org. So it's a simple one.
All right. Betty Beekman is the Executive Director of the National Theater of the Deaf, and Chris Joseph, one of the actors, and we're going to take a short break and come right back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. Betty Beekman's the executive director for the National Theater of the Deaf. Chris Joseph is an actor. We were talking off the air about, some of the, you can really appreciate stage acting because, Chris, you get that immediate response from the audience as opposed to filming where, there is no audience reaction response. Did you want to add something to that, Betty?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yes, like I was talking about, we talk about, like, for filming, if you make a mistake, you can reshoot it, and sometimes it limits the expression. Whereas in theater, you make a mistake, well, you have to keep going. You got to cover it up and just keep going because a mistake can always be fixed during a show. So the audience will say, "Oh, that's funny. You notice that an error, or work it in," or because it depends on how you cover it up well.
It's a good thing this show isn't live. You'd see all the mistakes that I make on here.
There you go.
Did you want to tell the story? Because as we tape, it's been a couple of years ago that Superstorm Sandy came through, and what happened to some of the actors a couple of years ago?
Well, yeah, the actors were performing in Maine, and the storm started. So I got in touch with them on the cell phone because the power was going out everywhere. So I said, "Stay." They said, "Well, we don't want to stay. We want to come home. It's just snowing just a little bit." And I said, "No, you have to stay. There's a hurricane coming." "Oh, no, it's fine here." So they started heading out, and it started getting snowier and snowier and snowier. So I contacted them again. I said, "Are you in a hotel?" "No." I said, "Get into a hotel now." So they got into a hotel, and then it really hit. And then they were there like 2 days, and they were getting really restless. I said, "There's nothing here. What are we going to do?" I said, "Well, the storm is past. You can come down." I couldn't even find out if their apartment was able to get into, because some areas still had power, a lot of areas didn't. So we went to the apartment. You couldn't even get near it. So I found them a hotel in Saybrook, and they stayed there for, I think, 5 days. Until they had power in their apartment. They said, "Oh, we just went food shopping. Oh, our food is ruined." But yeah, you never know what's going to happen on the road.
As you were explaining that to me, a question popped into my mind. Technology advances, it marches on. A couple of years ago, maybe you were stuck in the hotel room with nothing to do. Do they have things like apps nowadays on tablets and smartphones designed for the deaf that can just make life a little easier for you?
Apps like, there's the video chats, but it depends on the internet. Some hotels you have to pay for internet access, and you don't want to pay for that.
Right.
Games, of course, and you can enjoy that while you're doing that. But to have different kinds of apps that are specifically for the deaf, well, really, they're all actually for everybody. Hearing people do get stuck, and they have to go to hotels, so there's apps for them. It's not just for us, but there's a lot of things that make our lives a little easier with the tablets. The video chat on the iPhones, the FaceTime. Has been really great for the deaf community, and that's helped a lot because then they can sign directly to the person, and it's very mobile too. And then watching movies with the closed captioning and so forth. So that makes it's a different world technology-wise than it was growing up because there was nothing.
Yeah.
There was nothing. It's like watching the old movies, and you say, well, they could have just picked up a phone and tell the police to come, but no, they have to get on the horse and ride all the way, So it's a very different world, and it's good for the deaf, and we are very proud that we help make people aware for 45 years about the capabilities of deaf people, deaf actors. We're fortunate that we're role models for the deaf community, and we're just proud to have been able to do all what we've been able to do in the 45 years we've been around.
And you can...
What? Proud of yourself. Yes.
And you can do something for us right now because we've got a lot of other stuff to get to, but I want to make sure before time runs out that we get to a couple of performances today on the show. So talk about what's going to happen here.
We're going to do a couple of excerpts from 2 of our shows. The first one is just a poem that we love, and the second one is an excerpt from the Diaries of Adam and Eve, which is based on 2 works by Mark Twain. And what's exciting is that we're going to be performing at the Mark Twain house in Hartford on Valentine's Day, and we're going to be doing this piece.
Wow.
So we're really looking forward to that. So
Okay.
it's a funny piece.
We'll start with the poem.
Okay. Wait a minute, get my glasses on. It's called Flowers and Moonlight on the Spring Water. The evening river is level and motionless. The spring colors just open to their full. Suddenly a wave carries the moon away, and the tidal water comes with its freight of stars.
Nice. Now, very nice. Now, that was a poem. Is it like you were describing before? If you were to do that poem on stage, would there also be a voice interpretation of that too, or would it just be you signing?
Go ahead. Actually, we have 4 actors in this company doing in that show, and we all have lines together, and we all sign this together, and they voice it at the same time. But right now it's different for me because I'm signing the whole thing myself, but usually in the performance there are 4 of us that are doing this poem together.
Gotcha.
So like my part was the spring colors, and I do this, another person says the moonlight, and then we all do, and then you all do the river and the stars together. So it depends on the piece. And I have to apologize for Chris that he has a female voice today. Usually we have the male actor speaking for him, so
Okay,
he
now
has to suffer with a female voice.
The poem was the warm-up. Now we're going to get to the serious piece here, right?
Well, hopefully it's not too serious.
Right.
It's just a short excerpt. Saturday. She fell in the pond yesterday when she was looking at herself in it, which she is always doing. She nearly strangled. This made her sorry for the creatures which live there, which she calls fish. So she got a lot of them out and brought them in last night and put them in my bed to keep warm. But I have noticed them now and again all day, and I don't see that they're any happier there than they were before, only quieter. When night comes, I shall throw them outdoors. I will not sleep with them again, for I find them unpleasant and clammy to lie among.
Very nice. Now, this brings me to another question. When the audience is watching you perform, do they clap like they would clap normally? Do you? Or,
They
oh,
do
this,
that,
okay,
yeah, the
that-
visual applause.
Right,
It's more visual.
right,
And we can hear that.
right, right. So
so
you
it's
can
more
see
visual.
this better.
Yeah, yeah. I tend to joke that if you can't applaud at the same time, then you can do that.
Let's take one more break and come right back. This is, For the Record, fantastic show so far, so stay right with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. Betty Beekman is the Executive Director of the National Theater of the Deaf. Chris Joseph is one of the fantastic actors. Chris, I noticed that when you're just sitting here having a conversation, your sign is pretty normal, but when you were acting just then, you were much more physical with your signing. Is that part of the
Oh, yeah.
acting process?
Physicality together with the lines. You understand the lines, and I feel in one with them. I think the physicality of it makes it easier to understand.
Betty and Chris,
That's the acting process.
tell me the process of deciding like what your next production will be. How does it work? How does the whole process work? Do you get together, put heads together?
I want to answer that. Yeah, sometimes I feedback from the actors or feedback from other people on our evaluation forms. We ask them for ideas, just like you do when we filled out our form. Do we have any ideas? And then sometimes I just go to the library and just go through things and see what hits us. I get a concept, and then I work with that to try to fit that. I look at the material and see how well it will work with our kind of theater. We can perform anything, but it's looking at the material that you think will look good on stage. You know, like any theater company does that works with the audience they feel that they're in relationship with.
So tell us about going on the road, what your upcoming trips are, and maybe some local venues too.
Yes. Next week, actually, we're going to be taking off to Florida. November 1st through the 11th, we're going to be driving down there, and we're going to be performing in 3 different towns. Yes. It's great. You see, it's Clearwater, Pinellas Park in Miami. Right, right. We have public performances there. And we're going to be performing for the deaf students. At the Florida Recreation Center booked us, and they did the performance. They bought it for the School for the Deaf down there. So we're going to maybe on a time to squeeze in some Disney World time. So.
And all these performances will be on the website for people to go and see more, correct?
Yeah, and then when they come back from Florida, then we're going to Japan. We're going to be performing at a conference there. And yeah, I'll be joining you for that tour. And then, of course, the Mark Twain House in Hartford on Valentine's Day, and we're really looking forward to that. And then April, we're going to Illinois. No, that's May. Peoria is May, East Peoria, and April, we're working on Texas. She knows it more than I do. Yeah, yeah.
We are just about out of time, so I want to thank Betty Beekman, Executive Director of the National Theater of the Deaf, and Chris Joseph, who I can already tell is an amazing actor. Thank you both for being on the show today. And that is our show. You can see the show and many others on our YouTube site. Until next time, I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Take care.